First question though, this one from Bjork Tribe. Hi gents, smiley face. In the age of ray tracing, why do games often still forgo using mirrors? Even Alan Wake 2, the graphical darling of 2023, leaves out many mirrors. For those that work, they are weird, warbled messes with high roughness that look more like a road texture than a pristine slab of glass. Thank you for your considerations and cheers! Exclamation point. Fairly simple answer for this one, right, Alex?
I think it's artist intent in this one, at
Really?
least for at least Alan Wake, but also I think at least for Alan Wake, because the game was built with path tracing in mind, I think the mirrors are not supposed to be perfect
Right.
um, intentionally, because the game does have perfect mirror things. The For example, like you can go to like puddles of water
Right.
on the ground, and they're basically perfect mirrors.
So it could technically work.
It technically works, but they've set up the material to be pretty rough for some reason. I don't know why. Ask the developers in that case. But also ray traced reflections. You got to think about those console versions. They're not going to be running ray traced reflections always. They may not be running them at a high enough resolution where that mirror looks particularly good. So they'll still do like the broken mirror thing that every game does since eternity. Like yeah, all the mirrors are smashed everywhere you go.
That's a
So
lot of bad luck.
yeah, I think games still being multi-platform and not always having RT reflections on console is one of the bigger considerations. And even for games that do have RT reflections, like Spider-Man, they don't tend to actually use them for mirror reflections. They still do geometry doubling and or render to texture. Interestingly enough, that was the thing that I recall being in Spider-Man Miles Morales. I don't know if they use any mirrors in Spider-Man 2, John. Do they?
I can't remember, but I think the
Yeah.
reason there would just be that in those very constrained scenes, like render to texture would just look better. Because I think the thing you got to keep in mind, especially with the reflections, is like it's basically would show what's in the BBH structure. It's like peering into another world almost, an alternative reality, right? And depending on how
Yeah.
that BBH is optimized, it can look kind of gnarly in a way, right? When you're with rough surfaces, it kind of hides that somewhat and it ends up looking really good. But if you just have a perfect mirror, you can analyze every pixel of that reflection, what's inside the
Yeah.
BBH, and see like, oh wow, okay, they really cut some corners in here for performance. And it can look a little odd. Where in that case, like, well, if you're in that apartment, you got that mirror, you actually want it to look legitimately like it's really mirroring the exact scene. Using RTT there would give you a much better result,
Yeah.
right?
You get things like AO in it,
Yeah,
full character model quality, stuff
everything
that
would be
definitely
there.
wouldn't, like on Spider-Man, like it's like you have to think about it, like also in Spider-Man and a lot of games they only update like skinned models every other frame, so it'd be like a half, it would render at like half the refresh rate and it'd probably look really
Also, the
awkward.
denoising, when you factor that in, would probably make it look rather smeary, and just
Yeah, depending upon how they
how
do
they
it,
do
right?
it.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of reasons I would say they don't want to just use it there. And it's not that it's a problem with ray tracing specifically, it's due to the speed ups that they use to make it playable in these games. That when you do that perfect mirror, it's not necessarily going to look amazing, but
Yeah, really depends. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's a good answer. Yeah.
Alex, Hitman 3, or Hitman as it is now, that actually
Right.
used, it's got RT reflections, but it's also got the sort of brute force mirrors as
oh
well,
yeah,
right?
it does.
Yeah, it does. I forget. Did they replace them?
That's the
Oh
question
God,
I
I
was going to
I
covered
can't
that.
ask you.
remember.
I can't remember. There's a lot of bathroom scenes in that game, and I should probably go back and look at the toilets first of all. But and then yeah, but I remember what they did in that game is they kept the RTT system running and they used it for mirrors, like reflections in reflections. I think
Right.
at that point,
Oh, that's
which was
interesting.
really interesting,
Hmm.
instead of tracing extra rays, if I recall. So that was pretty cool. I have to go back to Hitman. When I covered that on release, I was pretty upset with the CPU performance. It
Right?
wasn't very good. Also, I felt like some of the RT performance wasn't so great.
Didn't
And like, yeah,
I,
sorry, John.
I feel like Hitman 2 and 3, the recent ones, didn't they really lean heavily on planar reflections as well?
Yep.
If I recall.
And mixed with RTT too.
Right.
They mixed
So
all of them. They used
man,
SSR as
so there's
well.
yeah, they
Very
mixed
mixed
all the
system.
technologies together. It's
Hmm.
interesting.
Yeah. And it worked out for some stages more than others. But that would be a good one to go back to and see what happened. I'm pretty sure it's replaced by ray traced reflections, which could arguably look better in that game.